is distributed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. We've got, looks like 6 consent items. I'll take them all at once unless anyone would like to break them out. All good? Okay, first consent item is the fiscal year 18 combined balances for balance sheet for the First Judicial District, Department of Correctional Services. The second consent item is the Dubuque County Library District Annual Report. The third is a Class WCN wine permit for Sunset Ridge Winery. The fourth is a Class WCN wine permit for Barrelhead Winery. The fifth is an change in ownership for Park Farm Winery. And the last consent item is the County Recorder's Quarterly Report.
Make a motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve all the consent items. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Consent items are approved. Next, related to procurement procedures, we have a request for quotes for 2018-2019 model year extended cab half-ton HD 4x4 6-foot-by-5 box 6,900-pound pickup trucks. Anthony.
Pretty much at the end of their life, so we're gonna move those out, probably put them on an auction, and then move a couple of the, they're a little bit older pickups, but still very drivable on our engineering staff, moving them down to the maintenance staff, and then these specs are for the replacement of the engineering staff 2 pickups.
These are budgeted?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for quotes.
I'll second, and then one question.
Sure, we have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Do these fit into the state bid at all? Or are they gonna be, or are you gonna check on the state bid to see if there's something that we can?
We can,
I think we should,
Yeah.
just to make sure that, just sometimes the state bids are better than anything that you can get from a private dealership, as long as you're not looking for something that's, kicks it out of that.
right. I think what we could do is still go out for the bid, but put in the bid specs that will compare to state bid pricing.
Right.
And then that'll give us the option to purchase that if need be, if
Okay.
if the bids are too high.
Very good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the request for quotes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The quote is approved as far as request for quotes. Next, related to public hearings, we have a proof of publication for the public hearing, number 5A. So advertisements for our next public hearing.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Proof of publications is approved. Next, we have our public hearing, and it's a public hearing on the amendment of the current county budget for fiscal year 19, Amendment 1. So Stella, do you want to give us an overview related to that? And then we'll open up the public hearing.
This is the first amendment to the FY19 budget. We ended the year with larger fund balances than had been budgeted, largely
You hit the
because
light right behind you once, I think, and it will, there you go.
There we go.
Thank you.
We ended with larger fund balances than projected for FY18, largely because there's a lot of capital projects that are going to carry forward as part of this amendment. So what that means is that capital projects were in process and now will be moved forward to be done, to be completed in FY19. So you can see the projected ending fund balances for FY19 after this amendment takes place here. So we're projecting about 7.6 million in the general basic fund, 4.9 or 4.8 in general sub. And then the amendment is seen here, which breaks it out. This is the state form that will be submitted to Iowa that shows the changes in the budget. Oh, wait.
And this is the form you'd see in the paper
This would have been in the
for
paper,
almost
yes.
all local governments as well, related to their budgets and their budget amendments.
And so then it gives a brief explanation of the things that we're doing. So one of the things we do is adjust the fund balances to actual. So we have a projected fund balance in our budget. We adjust them to the actual ending balance. There's some expenses that were budgeted in 18 but not paid until FY 19. And like I said, a large majority of it is the projects that were not completed in FY 18 that will be moved to FY 19. And then we also received our bond proceeds for West Campus financing. So we're adjusting that to actual. And then a couple of grants and contributions that were received.
Do we have this document?
Yes, this was published and
It's in our packet here. It's
Okay.
5B, 5A and B. 5B and then 5B3 and 5B4.
and this is the one that we went through at the work session.
Do you have the other documents as well? Before we open the public hearing, maybe it'd be helpful for those that are here, appreciate your attendance, related to the adjustments like the resolution. Do you have that or not?
I don't have it on here, but I could
If
probably get to it. Give me 1 minute.
just to kind of go over maybe all the documents before we open up the public hearing, give everyone an understanding of the resolution, and it lists the various funds. There you go. I think it's the one right above it.
Just gonna try to open it in
Oh,
the
okay,
right
it wasn't opening.
format. There we go.
Yeah, that's one of them.
And let me grab the other one quick. So this was the file that I was just showing before, just in the PDF format. So this was what was published in the newspaper. Shows the changes to FY 19 budget. Back and get the appropriations resolution. Bigger. So this shows the transfers or the changes by department and by fund.
And one of the practices that we have for those here for the meeting that you're not here very regularly, related to budget, we never try to employ a use it or lose it. And so we want all of our department heads to manage the projects they have and the different funds they have between the two budget years. So we run on June, July budget. And so there's no rush to finish all the projects just in June in order to get them done. And if they still think they're viable, and the board still agrees they're viable, then they roll into the new year, and then we make that adjustment, which we're doing right now. One of the other bigger adjustments that we have is on capital projects. And so some of the larger projects that we've got currently going on, that fund is probably the largest of all the funds that are being changed. There's some capital projects for the radio. So we're currently working on the 911 system. That project is over multiple budget years, and so the whole fund, the whole appropriations for that is closer to 11 million, and we're moving 8.5 million roughly into next year to complete that project this year.
Yes.
And there's the Cypher Road project that's the 14 million that I was
Yes.
thinking about, Cypher Road.
Other capital projects. The roof was not completed by the end of our fiscal year, so that's the completion of the courthouse roof project moving forward.
Good thing it's finished now.
It's finished now.
Yeah. New roof, keep the water out of the attic. Okay,
And the final document in here would be the transfer of the $1.2 million that we decided to hold back for other capital projects.
yeah, so Anthony, I think the original high level for the Cypher Road complex was 17 million, is that right? And we're anticipating that between the phase 1 and phase 2 would be closer to a little less than 13 million? about 12.8. And so we did have additional funds then that we wanted to move back into our long-term capital projects fund, since we, generally speaking, came under budget on that project. Still a very large and expensive project, but less than we had originally had anticipated. Any other questions for Stella before we open the public hearing? Okay.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion, and a second, to open the public hearing related to the budget amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are in public hearing and would like to speak related to the budget changes. Please go to the podium and state your name and let your voice be heard. Certainly not required, but it's one, or not required for you, but it's required for us by law related to any times we change our budget to let the public know. The other steps is that we do publish this in the normal publications that we have, the Telegraph Herald, Cascade Pioneer, and the Dyersville Commercial. But if anyone would like to comment related to the budget, here's your opportunity. All right, seeing no one?
I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. So now I believe we can move on to number 2. Is that correct, Mary? The adoption of the fiscal year budget amendment number 1. And so that's B2 in your packet. And that's,
Want me to put those back up?
yeah. So we basically adopt the amendment changes, and then we approve the resolution?
Correct.
Okay,
So.
we adopt the budget.
The first one is to adopt this state resolution, or the state amend the budget, and then the appropriations resolution adopts it into.
Is the next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adopt the FY19 budget amendment number 1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the fiscal year budget amendment number 1. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Budget is amended. Next is a resolution approving the fiscal year 19 appropriations in amendment number 1.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution for the amendment number 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Resolution is approved. And the last one is the resolution approving the fiscal year fund transfer number 2.
Yeah, I just gotta find it here. I make a motion to approve the resolution in 5B4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the fund transfer number 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Resolution is approved. Thank you, Stella.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. Next, we have a public hearing for the amendment to the zoning ordinances. So Anna, you're up, and the first one, I believe, we have on our agenda is William and Janet Hendricks, C1 Conservancy to A1 Agricultural. And that is C1 in your packet.
Are those the very same documents we got the other day?
1, 2, 3. So those you're waiting, we have 3 zoning cases, and then we have some plats, and a few action items, communication items, so probably looking at about, I'll say 20 to 40 minutes before we get to ATV, UTV appointments, if you're looking for that.
Okay. Morning.
Good morning.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Zoning case number 083318, William and Janet Hendricks, C1 Conservancy to A1 Agricultural. The applicants are requesting rezone from C1 Conservancy to A1 Agricultural, 0.60 acres more or less, to be allowed to replace the existing cottage with a single-family home. The property is located 1.9 miles west of the city of Dubuque and is situated between Hendricks Lane and US Highway 151 South. Is legally described as lots 5 of 1, 4 of 1, 3 of 1, 2 of 1, and 1 of 1, all in the northwest section 28 T88 North R2E, Table Mountain Township, Dubuque County, Iowa. The property is owned by William and Janet Hendricks. Zoning in the area includes A1 agricultural to the north, the south, the east, and the west, R1 rural residential to the north and to the south. There are no special use permits attached to this property. 5 rezoning notification letters were sent to the property owners and the city of Dubuque was notified. Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 9, Agricultural Natural Resources, page 134, Objective 3.1, and Chapter 8, Housing, page 122, Objective 12.7 may apply to this case. The Dubuque County Conservation Board was also notified, and they responded by saying that they had no problem with this going out of C1 into A1.
You have any idea why this is C1 to begin with? Is it a floodway or something? The way it looks?
Now, I
That
can
it's just-
show you here on the, I'll put the
This
zoning
looks
map
weird.
up here for you. So it is just, it looks like it's almost like a floodway, but it's not. In fact, Mr. Hendricks can explain to you, he feels that this map is probably incorrect, but this was probably put in place when they did all of the maps in the 60s.
That's what I was trying to figure out. What's the reason for it?
Yeah, it got put in there probably in the 60s, and you know, obviously they don't, nobody changes them until somebody asks to have them changed.
Okay.
So
Any
the
other
light
questions for
pink is
Tam?
the area where this falls, you know, into.
Any other questions for Tammy? Okay, if not, do you want to open the?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to open the public hearing related to this rezoning request. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are in public hearing and would like to speak related to this zoning case. Please go to the podium and state your name.
Did you?
All right. Thank you. It is always helpful if the property owner just at least says a few words.
All right, yeah, I'm William Hendricks, so I believe it was done incorrectly because, as that map showed Tammy before, it wraps up to the highway, and actually the waterway goes up to the tree farm to the west, and that I could build a house in, right in a major waterway, which makes no sense whatsoever. So it just, the house and, it's all house and yard. I don't know why it's C1. It just seems like it's incorrect, and we just want to replace that structure, so.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. We are in public hearing. You'd like to speak related to this zoning request? Seeing no one?
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the zoning request. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Make a motion to suspend the requirement that this amendment be considered and voted on for passage at 2 prior meetings?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Make a motion that the amendment be adopted and that the zoning administrator be directed to enter the appropriate changes on the official zoning map, and the auditor be directed to arrange for the publication of the amendment and portion of the official zoning map as amended in the official county newspapers as required by law.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The zoning is approved. Our next case is Genesis 3 Holdings LLC, Ron White, R1 Rural Residential to B2 Highway Business.
Yep.
Tammy.
The applicant is requesting rezone from R1 Rural Residential to B2 Highway Business, 3.29 acres more or less, to allow for the construction of a new building for Brown's National Lease to replace the existing building that is being bought out by the Department of Transportation. The property is located 0.80 miles southwest of the city of Dubuque along Highway 20 and Depot Ridge Road, and is legally described as the southwest of the Southwest, Section 7, T88 North, R2E, Table Mountain Township, Dubuque County, Iowa. The property is owned by Genesis 3 Holdings LLC, Ron White. Zoning in the area includes R1 Rural Residential to the north, the south, the east, and the west, R2 Single Family Residential to the west and to the south, R4 Multifamily Residential to the east and to the west, A1 Agricultural to the north and to the south, B2 Highway Business to the north and to the west, M1 Industrial to the north. The B2 Highway Business on zoning case number 12-2005 to the north was to allow for a diesel component services business with conditions. The M1 Industrial to the north on zoning case number 11-6 of 88 was to allow for a fabrication, packing, and assembling office equipment business. There has been 2 previous rezoning cases attached to this property. On zoning case number 9014 of 81, it was to rezone from R1 Rural Residential to B2 Highway Business to allow for a truck stop, restaurant, and motel. On zoning case number 27 of 17, it was to be allowed to build a water waste plant with the removal of the current lagoons and to allow for a 10,000 square foot recycling building to be used for transferring recycling materials from truck to semi-truck. There's 1 special use permit attached to this property on BA case number 1026 of 86, and 10 rezoning notification letters were sent to the property owners, and the city of Dubuque was notified. Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 9, Agricultural and Natural Resources, page 135, Objective 5.4, Chapter and 12, Land Use, page 179, Objectives 3.5, and Chapter 7, Economic Development, page 105, Objective 3.2 and 3.4 may apply to this case. So the area that you see in the hatched area here, that's the area that he is wanting to rezone. This is somehow messed up on our maps, and I'm gonna get that corrected. So this has not, these pieces have nothing to do with his property. So this is the piece he's looking to rezone. This is the piece that was rezoned to allow for the lagoons. So that was done. And now, because of the buyout with the highway expansion and the Southwest Arterial Project, that he's going to be losing his property up front, so he's just wanting to help this company that he rents to now move to the back of the lot.
Does a B2 business have, highway business, does it have to be on the highway, or does it just have to have access to the highway?
It just has to have access, and the B2 highway business is just basically because of what you're allowed to do in that. It doesn't necessarily have to come off of a highway.
So what, the access to this would be coming from
The
where?
access is going to be coming. Up here so I can show you. So the business is coming up through here. He's going to come down through here. So he'll be using the same entrance that he has for the truck stop already. So that's not going to change. Eventually that'll be North Cascade Road. So he'll actually be coming off of North Cascade Road at some point.
That's after the reconfiguration
Yeah.
of the intersection.
Yeah. And he's again here to speak for any other questions you may have.
Now, this is all zoned R1, but that's not really residential property.
It's not, no. And there's as I read to you, there's a highly multiple uses out there. Business, residential, there's the mobile home park and.
And there's residential behind it off of North Cascade Road.
Other questions for Tammy? If not, we can open the public hearing.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are in public hearing. Anyone would like to speak related to this rezoning, please go to the podium and state your name.
My name is Ron White. I'm the owner of Genesis 3, actually Genesis 2, Genesis 3, and Exodus 2 Holdings. So number 124 there is the Brown National Lease Building now, 124 to the left of 124A.
So right here.
Yeah, right there. Okay, so that's Brown National Lease now. 123A, I used to own, and that was American Flooring. That's where North Cascade Road is going through. Okay, so, but they're not giving me access to 124 itself. That's Exodus 2 Holdings, and the DOT is not giving me access to that. So I have to make new access off of Genesis 2 Holdings in order to accommodate that. Plus, there, you can see in the blue there, right ahead of 124, they're taking that space there too. And the tenant doesn't really want to lose any more access, any more parking lot. They also, the semis come in through those doors, and there's potentially maybe not enough room to turn into the first bay there. So what I'm doing is being the DOT has to provide me access, or they can acquire the property. So I'm preparing a spot for them down here. Then we can see 125 is Genesis 3 Holdings, and then that little square right there potentially would be where the new building would be. And then, so that'd be North Cascade Road, and then right above 125 there, you can see the entrance to Genesis 3 Holdings property. So that, when it's all said and done, that's where it will, how it would look when it's done.
Ron, can you verbally describe and maybe point where the interchange would be, how people would get to this property?
Yeah, that's the on-ramp right there where it says 7970.
Point it at there.
Oh,
They'll
okay.
be able to see for you, okay?
Thank you.
Right here is the on-ramp. So the off-ramp is right there.
Okay, and then there'll be
Yeah, and I can slide it down here. and
then
show
you'd
you.
go
There's
off,
the-
oh, I didn't know if you had that still on your map. Okay, good.
Okay, so then you
They'd go the off-ramp, come over the bridge and,
Right, you come over here, and then there's a Swiss Valley Road right here, and then you get on North Cascade Road right here. And you enter the truck stop right here. Like I say, they won't give me an access right in here. Okay? So you enter the truck stop here, and then if you don't enter, you go down North Cascade Road, and then this comes into Republic Services now, the brand new access for this building here. And then you continue down North Cascade Road, and then this would be the entrance now to Genesis 3 Holdings. So then that would be the entrance for that building there.
thank you. So the good news is that at grade intersection that many people are been concerned about coming into the truck stop will be removed. And
That's
they'll have
correct.
on and off ramps.
That's correct.
Okay. Good. Any other questions for Ron? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ron.
Appreciate it. Okay, we are in public hearing. You would like to speak related to this rezoning? Seeing no one?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
We have
Second.
a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the rezoning. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Make a motion to suspend the requirement that this amendment be considered and voted on for passage at 2 prior meetings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I'll make a motion that the amendment be adopted and that the zoning administrator be directed to enter the appropriate changes on the official zoning map, and that the auditor be directed to arrange for the publication of the amendment and portion of the official zoning map as amended in the official county newspapers as required by law.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The rezoning is approved. Okay, next zoning case we have is James and Janet Kress, A1 agricultural to R2 single family residential. Tammy.
Okay, the applicants are requesting a zone from A1 agricultural to R2 single-family residential, 15.56 acres more or less, to allow for the construction of 2 single-family homes with the intent to create a subdivision with the remaining property in the future. The property is located adjacent to the city of Dubuque along Rustic Point Lane and is legally described as Lot 6 of Shagbarth Estates, Section 9, T88 North, R2E, Dubuque Township, Dubuque County, Iowa. The property is owned by James and Janet Kress. Zoning in the area includes A1 agricultural to the north and to the south and to the east and to the west. R2 single-family residential to the north and to the east. R3 single-family residential to the west, and B2 highway business to the west. The R2 single-family residential to the north on zoning case number 57 of 84 was to rezone 35 acres to create a residential subdivision. The B2 highway business to the west on zoning case number 22 of 94 was to allow for a sports and recreation complex. There are no previous rezoning cases attached to this property. There are no special use permits attached to this property. 19 rezoning notification letters were sent to the property owners, and the city of Dubuque was notified. Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 9, Agriculture and Natural Resources, page 134, Objectives 3.1, and Chapter 8, Housing, page 122, Objective 12.7 may apply to this case. So this is the area that's, this hatch map area is what's going to be rezoned, or what he's requesting to have rezoned. This is the zoning in the area. So the city of Dubuque, there's a subdivision right here already developed. And this is where he's looking to start with 2 homes with the intent to eventually develop it the rest of the way. He has given us just kind of a preliminary, nothing's shown here, but an idea of what he thought he would do for lots eventually. So eventually, he would like to have a spot for his son right here.
Tammy, could you start with where the access would be? Would
Sure.
the access come off Derby
is going to
Green?
be coming up the lane here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the access, and it's already built up to this point.
And that's a shared one with the city of Dubuque
Yeah.
on the
Yeah, that would be,
their property.
you're looking at this already. So it's already there on there.
Okay, thank you.
City Street?
Yeah. And so this is what his intent would be. Like I said, if you look eventually, his intent would be to potentially develop these like that. He hasn't platted that off or anything. These are just the ideas if he gets the rezoning, what he would intend on doing. And he again is here to speak for the case.
Okay, other questions for Tammy? All right. If not, would you like to open the public hearing?
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are in public hearing and would like to speak related to this rezoning request. Please go to the podium and state your name.
Yeah, I'm Jim Kress from Sherrill, Iowa. My son would like to build a new house over there. I'm getting a little older and I maybe would like to put one across from you too, so you can help me out. And the rest of it I probably won't do anything with until I meet my maker, put it that way. But that was the idea anyhow, so the roads are there, shouldn't be no problem.
I'm curious, have you had any discussions with the city related to access on that road?
City called me,
They're okay?
they want it in the city.
Oh, yes. Now, will there be are you envisioning potentially having access to city water or?
Yeah, I think I can get city water, I talked to him about that. Possibly sewer too.
Okay,
But, you know, for the first two lots anyhow. But, we'd have to put our own pumps in. Instead of putting a septic tank in, we'd use a pump to pump it up to the line. Which they have such a thing, which I didn't know, but I found out, but, so that'd be my expense to get it there.
and so right now that you're envisioning just one or two homes?
One home for sure,
Okay.
possibly two. I'd have to sell my place first, but,
And you'll construct your own driveway
yeah.
off of the city road?
Yeah, it'd be blacktop instead of pavement, no curb and gutter, obviously. Unless the city comes after me, and makes me do it.
They probably won't have much to say about it until it hits their property.
Yeah, well, I gotta sign a paper with them, I guess, so. Some kind of volunteer access down the line or volunteer east, whatever you call it.
Yeah, they want you to waive your rights to,
There you go. That's what-
basically, waive your annexation rights, which means that if they want you in the city limits, you'll be in the city limits.
That's right.
I would highly advise you to look at that document as close as possible and see if they'll make changes to it.
Yeah, well, I know I talked to him about it, but. So, I guess that's all there is.
So your
Thank you.
access right now to that property is going in on the city street? Is that how the farm, because it's cultivated right now, right? It's farmed?
Yeah, it's farm now.
So how do they get in and out of there now?
Back there, that's all bean patch.
But how do they get in and out? Do they go up the city street to
Yeah.
get in?
Yeah.
Okay. So the access that you're proposing is the one you're using now?
Yeah,
to-
we're going
to
up the
get-
street. Yep. But from where the street stops to where it goes in, we're gonna have to grade that up and gravel it probably until they get the rest of the street in.
Any other questions for Jim?
Huh?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
If there's anybody
Okay,
else?
yeah, we are in public hearing. You would like to speak related to this zoning case? Seeing no one?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Well, it appears like this is the direction of the use of this land in that neighborhood.
Well, it's, kind of appears that way. It's pretty much all developed all the way around it, except for, you go north, there's some trees, but
Yeah, well, and it's great collaboration of public resources to have that road go into the back there.
make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Make a motion to suspend the requirement that this amendment be considered and voted on for passage at 2 prior meetings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Make a motion that the amendment be adopted and that the zoning administrator be directed to enter the appropriate changes on the official zoning map, and the auditor be directed to arrange for the publication of the amendment and portion of the official zoning map as amended in the official county newspapers as required by law.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. The rezoning is approved. Okay, we're on to our approval of plats. We have two plats. The first is a resolution approving the final plat for Richard, the second edition, Section 18, Table Mound Township. Tammy?
The property is owned by William and Richard Living Trust and is located 1.46 miles south of the city of Dubuque along Swiss Valley Road with a total of 12.88 acres surveyed. The property is zoned R1 Rural Residential, R2 Single Family Residential, and C1 Conservancy. The purpose of the plat is to create a single residential lot for a single-family home. The survey creates two lots. Lot 1 is a total of 5.90 acres surveyed and will be sold for a new home site. Lot 2 is a total of 6.98 acres surveyed, and has been sold to a neighbor and will remain in current use. Lot 1 will use an approved residential entrance, 18-19 off of Swiss Valley Road, and Lot 2 will use an existing field entrance off of Swiss Valley Road. There were no additions or corrections required for this plat. The mortgage holder's acknowledgement is signed and attached, and all signatures are current. This plat has been reviewed by myself as Plat's officer and has been all required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. So, as you can see, we're taking, I'll show you here, we're taking this one piece here, and it's being split into these two. There's a home gonna be going up in this area, and this piece is gonna be in current use. It's already zoned for residential use, so there was no rezoning or anything required.
You probably said this, but I might have missed it. What access we'd have for each lot?
So our access points,
Shared the 30 wide
yeah,
easement
we
right
have
there.
get this for you. Your entrance here was approved, and this was right here. Sorry, I gotta get the right note for it. Off of Swiss Valley Road this is. So the first entrance is gonna be coming in over here. And then the other one, there's a field entrance that's gonna be shared coming into here.
Those have already been approved?
Yes.
Okay.
The field entrance was an existing one. The
One.
residential is the one you had to have approved.
And there were no conflicts? It wasn't a variance?
No,
Okay.
no, it did come to you, and it was approved by you.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, so there was a variance of some type, all right,
That was back in June.
time flies. All right, any other questions for Amy? Tammy?
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution for the final plat, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries, resolution is approved. The next resolution and plat we have is for BGJ Kramer Place, Section 21, Table Mound Township.
All right. The property is owned by Jesse and Stephanie Kramer and is located 1.48 miles west of the city of Dubuque along St. Joe's Prairie Road with a total of 39.513 acres surveyed. The property is zoned R1 Rural Residential, and the purpose of the plat is to create a 1.50 acre lot for financing purposes to allow Jesse and Stephanie to remove the existing farm home and replace it with a new home. The survey creates two lots. Lot 1 is a total of 1.5 acres surveyed, and it will be the site for the new home. Lot 2 is a total of 38.013 acres surveyed, and it will remain in current ownership and use. Lot 1 will use a 33-foot residential access easement across Lot 2 of St. Joe's Prairie Road, and Lot 2 will use an existing residential access off of St. Joe's Prairie Road. There were no additions or corrections required for the plat. The bank consent is signed and attached. Some of the signatures are over 60 days old, and they include the surveyor, July 30th of 2018, health, July 30th of 2018, county engineer, August 7th, 2018, attorney, August 9th, 2018, bank consent farm services agency, August 2nd, 2018. This plat has been reviewed by myself as Plat's officer, and all signatures are met, and I respectfully recommend approval. So what happened here is this is zoned residential already. I'll show you that here on this map. They were in to do their first plat with you would have been in March of 2018. So this is what they originally did. They went to go start the project and the bank is making them take this out. So it's a bank requirement. Again, it's because the bank won't give them the loan to build on all of the acreage. They'll be the owners of all of the acreage and the home, but it's a financial requirement by the bank. They're the ones making them do this second split in here. It doesn't change the use or the intent of the use.
Okay, any other questions for Tammy?
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution and the plat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. The resolution and the plat is approved. Thank you, Tammy. Greatly appreciate it. Next, on our action items, we have a resolution for the appointments of deputies, assistants, and clerks. Looks like we have 4 Sunnycrest positions. All good to go?
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries, resolution is approved. The next resolution is to approve the lease of mortgage for the Jumpstart Federal Housing Rehabilitation Payment Program for Mindy Fay.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries, resolution is approved. The next resolution is to approve the lease agreement with Greg and Roxanne Willie for the winter equipment parking.
Our Holy Cross maintainer operator has been using this building, and we've been leasing it for him to park his maintainer between the months of November and May, just to get him inside some kind of building, and it's worked out well for us.
I thought this was originally just started just to get us to get the shop finished in Farley.
Not this situation. No,
This wasn't?
Yeah, he's separate from that.
Okay.
He's a little too far north to be able to pull out of Farley.
That was my question, but first I thought that this was part of that time, so.
He
okay.
used to come out of Dubuque, but since then, we've put him up in the Holy Cross area to be more centralized on his territory. So it's just one of those other areas of the county that we don't quite have a good handle on a building yet.
Anthony, do we pay the rent or lease for the whole year?
We pay it twice a year.
So is it 300 times 12 months?
No, it's just for that 6-month period.
Okay, when it said we pay it twice a year, to me, that made it sound like we have that we're paying it for the whole year, and I'm
Yeah, for some reason, when this was set up, and I believe the county attorney's office helped us set this up a few years ago, it was that we would make payment December 31st and June 30th, but it's not for the entire year.
okay. That, to me, indicated that it was a year-round thing, and we wouldn't use it during the nice weather, right? Well, if there is nice weather anymore, I guess,
Right.
yeah.
November 1st to the first day of May.
That's correct.
That's the term of the lease.
Thanks for the clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. I will make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Resolution is approved. Next resolution is to approve the final progress for the voucher for the HMA resurfacing within cold-in-place recycling project on Old Davenport Road and Feeney Road.
Okay, this is the final voucher that's been through the DOT auditing process. It does take a while to get through that. So this is for the project, the paving project that we had last year. River City is signing off on the final payment voucher, and this is up for our signature and to be able to send down to the DOT to close out this project.
You're good with it?
Yes.
Motion to approve?
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Resolution is approved. Final resolution is to approve the joint agreement with the city of Farley regarding the relocation of Big River Cast Stone. And so is this the company that's located, Tammy, maybe you know this one, is this located off of Y21 or Sundown Road? Is that the? I think it is. I think it's the, you can Google it real quick, but that's my memory. So we've had a zoning issue out there that they're running there, and he was trying to get into one of the industrial parks.
Right, that was his end plan, yes.
Is it correct? Is it coming back? The, get the name of the owner, the business owner. That sounds right.
Yeah, and so
And this agreement's tied to that. So it's the city of Farley.
He's still operating out of the other
So they're tiffing, doing some tiff on this?
They are, yes.
Or is that asking for our, okay, I mean,
I don't think we have the ability to say no,
I don't think it's.
but I think it's similar to the Epworth project. I think they just run it by us.
They inform us, basically.
Form us. Although it is it is a joint agreement with a signature. Basically asking for the relocation from the Dubuque County site to the Farley site. And then using TIF funds in support of the project. From my understanding, it's adjacent to their existing industrial park.
Is this something normally the municipality would come in and talk to us about?
It depends the size
I
of
have
it.
documents in front of me, but
I think it's typically just something that they're required to let us know that we're gonna be losing out on some tax dollars because of this TIF
understand.
going
now.
forward, and it's just,
And there, we have
Formality.
several of those in place
right.
in different, with different towns, and we have some of our own TIF areas.
So there's a public hearing at Farley Memorial Hall on October 15th related to this. And so that will be the public hearing that they're required to have on October 15th. Otherwise, from my vantage point, it looks all in order and something I would support. Anyone else feel the same?
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second. Whoops.
Denise has more information. Okay, we have a motion, and a second, and more discussion.
Not really, I just received a request
Okay.
and I emailed the city clerk and understand if we had something like that, that the move would affect us. But otherwise, I guess there's a section of the code that says that if someone is moving from out the county out into the city and the city is going to give them an incentive, then they have to consult with you and have this agreement. Don't know why, other than maybe so you're aware it's happening. So it's just so that they can fulfill this section of the code that it's even on your agenda.
Okay.
And remember, this was a violation because they're not dealing for this business. So it's running an illegal business in that section
Not conforming.
that house.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next we have, I believe, lost my place here. So that was the last one. Communications, approve of publications for the zoning request, 8A. Do we have any of those? We do not have any of those. And then public hearing notice from the city of Farley and the amendment of the Farley Consolidated Industrial Commercial Urban Renewal Area, which we just discussed. That was probably a letter saying that same date for
I'll
October
make a
15th.
motion to
Yep.
receive and file that notice.
Thank you.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the notice. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, we are on to appointments. Our first appointment is for the Stakeholders Committee, is that correct? And we're looking for one unexpired term ending June 30th, 2019 as a provider, and one unexpired term ending June 13th, 2019 as a consumer. And did we have two applicants for each one of those? Is that what I'm remembering? For those appointments? So, Lori Reagan as a consumer. I thought I had one more as, thank you, that's the other one I was going to.
Do we know, Dawn, how long these have been open, or?
They've been open longer.
Do we need to, are either of them here? Okay, give them a chance to speak, I guess, if.
Okay.
And do we need these to be treated separately?
Yes.
Okay. I guess then I'll make a motion to approve the application of,
We do the Michelle Schmidt as a provider first.
okay,
First, the providers on our agenda first, so if you want to take that.
all right. Make a motion to approve
The Michelle Schmidt.
Michelle Schmidt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Michelle Schmidt as the provider for the Stakeholders Committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. The next one we're looking as a consumer.
I'll make a motion to approve Lori Reagan as a consumer to the Stakeholders Board.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Appointment is complete. Okay, next on our agenda is the Dubuque County ATV UTV Review Committee. And I believe we have a host of applicants that have applied, over, what, about 24, maybe 26 or so, if there's some duplicates in the different categories. So good turnout of applicants and interests, so that's excellent to see. Maybe the group can, did we decide on the number of appointees for this? Or was that going to be determined based upon how many applicants we received?
Yeah, my notes said that you said anywhere between 9 and 15 members.
So 9 and 15 total, and possibly 6 to 8 of the citizenry, and then we were discussing potentially other county appointments,
That's
potentially somebody from Road and Bridge and maybe other divisions, EMS. And so are we looking for, so out of the group today, are we looking for 6 to 8? Is that what the board's thinking?
My personal opinion would be we do 8.
Eight.
4 on each side of the issue. I think we definitely need someone from the roads department on there. I'd like to see someone from the sheriff's department on there. And then, I don't know, do we tap conservation, or who else do we think we would want to have?
I think we
on
discussed
this?
potentially there's someone from a small local government, and we mentioned potentially somebody from EMS. I remember that was our general discussions, but it wasn't,
I had mentioned that I was contacted, and I think somebody at least applied that from what I would call, using this term generically, sportsmen or hunters. And the concern was, you know, if right now, a hunter would have to trailer their ATV or UTV to the hunting area, and they'd like, so I guess they would be in favor of it. Maybe I'm answering
That's
my
why
own
I would
question.
think it would be
But-
in favor person.
Yeah, so it probably wouldn't be fair to put them on as a separate category, so. But, you know,
And we do need to try to get this somewhat gender balanced, or it has to be
That's-
gender balanced?
that's gonna delay our progress probably, if I'm looking at the names.
Yeah, I did check with County Attorney Potter, and he said we do have to have a gender balance, and we haven't had it, the only time we can, we do not have to follow that as if the vacancy's been open, and that's not the case here.
And so that gender balance, though, could be across the whole appointees, correct?
Correct. It could be, staff could be included in that as well.
That gives us a little more leeway.
So
But I
they-
believe that in favor, we only have one, we have 2 females, is that correct? On the in favor category?
So
So I guess we
if
could.
we have some
fulfill
people
it.
that are not voting members, they still would be counted, do you think?
Yeah, who's ever considered, if you just have some ex officio who are just there, they would not be part of this gender balance. It's who is making up the makeup of your committee.
So if we have 8 citizens on this committee, it needs to be 4 and 4,
That is correct.
okay? If we have 6, then it needs to be 3 and 3. And then, did we decide or discuss whether there's a need or a spot for those who are undecided? Because it looks like we have 3 undecided individuals.
We did not discuss that. They just put that on.
Yeah.
We had asked if they were in favor or opposition, and they chose to make a new category, which is fine.
Yeah.
That they just would like to receive.
So from what I'm looking at least the list, if we do 4 by 4, for a total of 8, there are 4 applicants that are women. So we could fulfill that. 2 in each category. If we like the applications. I believe we should move forward and appoint positions today. I think we've given the time.
Okay. I guess I would start by making a motion to approve the application of Ron McCarthy.
I would second that.
Okay, we have do you want to take them one by one? Is that the easiest
Yeah, I
for
think
us?
so.
Let's do that. So we have a motion and a second to approve Ron McCarthy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Ron is approved. That's 1. I'll do 2 in a row here to do the gender balance. I'm not familiar with either of these individuals, but I make a motion to approve Sharon Menke and Michelle Schweitzer.
Schweitzer.
Schweitzer, had it right the first time.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve Sharon and Michelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve Catherine Caitlin and Diane Moore.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve Catherine Caitlin and Diane Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve Wayne Demmer and Dan Eartham.
5, 6, 7, Eartham. Is Eartham on the other list?
He's on the in favor
Okay,
list.
thank you. I will second that. 5, 6, Eartham, hold on.
Second one on
Thank you. So that's a total of 7. So we have a motion and a second to approve Wayne Demmer and Dan Eartham. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dissenting?
Nay.
Motion carries 2 to 1. And we're looking for one other individual. How are we doing on the gender balance? One more male
On the
then.
opposed
And does it
side.
have to be opposed or in favor?
Right now, it looks like that's what I'm seeing as well. I'll make a motion to approve Craig Reber.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve Craig Reber. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Then I'll make a motion to approve Steve Nepper. Because that gives us 9 people then.
I'll second it.
Sure. Steve Nepper, where's Steve's
Steve's a
name here?
long-term county employee that's
Okay.
retired, so.
Excellent. So we have a motion and a second to approve Steve Nepper as well. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. I've got 9 individuals that have been appointed. Okay, that's, I think, an excellent list. And then from there, we'll potentially add some other appointees that are
Right.
county, city, and/or community-related.
The sheriff had anything to say about having an individual on the board, a representative?
Sheriff,
ask
your
him.
name was mentioned. Would you like to comment? Thank you for attending.
So we've done some thinking on this issue, and because there's not going to be an ordinance that comes out of this board, it's strictly for informational purposes. We will provide information for the opposition of this. This has not changed our stance on this. We are still 100% opposed to ATVs on the roadway. But we feel it's our duty to provide information for the opposition portion of this.
Do you have a specific appointee in mind that we would name at this point? Not putting pressure on you, but,
We're gonna discuss it at
okay.
our SMT meeting tomorrow.
all right.
So,
And so,
do you need gender balance on that?
comment on that?
Will
We
they
have-
be part of the committee, or will they be?
So, right now, we have
there
4
as
women and
support
5
staff?
men, is that correct?
I guess the way I kind of looked at this is that any of the county support would be ex officio. I mean, just for,
We can do that.
Non-binding vote?
right. If there's votes, I'm
I-
not sure how much voting is actually going to go on in this committee. I think, I'm looking at this as more of a fact-finding committee to where we're looking at different views and trying to get information brought forward to decide whether or not this makes sense or not. And if it doesn't, why it doesn't make sense, and bringing that information to the Board of Supervisors. So I'm not looking in any way, shape, or form for this committee to bring us a proposed ordinance or a resolution or anything along those lines. I think that we need to direct or come up with that ourselves. We can ask this committee to do this at a later date, but initially, I don't see that as the role of this committee in my mind, so I'm not sure where you guys are at.
Yeah, and I guess, and maybe, you know, if Sheriff Kennedy can weigh in if he'd like, but for, you know, people who, I mean, I think we understand and have heard from both sides on this, but if we're either gonna have an ordinance at some point, and are those opposed, I guess, through this process, if they simply say no, then will we be acting on the original ordinance that was presented, or is it for the committee to talk about and whether or not there should be an ordinance and what it should look like, if there is one? That's, I guess, my question, because I'm seeing two parts to this. I guess if it comes back, heck yeah, heck no, then we're, you know, I guess it'll be good that they've had the discussion. You know, I personally feel if we have an ordinance, there's some roads that should be looked at, and when does that come in? Is that the committee's, you know, should the committee be discussing that?
Well,
I guess, Sheriff Kennedy, that's why
and
are you capable of saying, if we have an ordinance, I have problems with X roads? Or, to this point, you've said, hell no.
I've made my position very clear, and that's not changed. And my understanding was that this committee was to be used to gather information, and that's why I agreed to do it. If this committee is designed to come up with an ordinance, we're out. We're not having any part of that.
And I think we
Well,
had
you-
that, the board's had that discussion in the
Yeah.
past, and I think the consensus of the board, that was not the intent of this committee. My general understanding is that the intent of this committee is to, one, provide dialogue from both sides, to share information, potentially provide other information from other counties, other safety groups, economic viability, things like that, and try to maybe gain a better understanding from both positions. And then that report would come back to the board, hopefully no later than January. And from there, the board eventually needs to make a decision on this. And jumping ahead, that decision is status quo, 100% freedom, or something in the middle, I would assume your scenarios. Is that-
And then maybe kick that back to this or another committee to then go through if it's let's move forward with something, then see what that something might be and then
that's where we
bring
may-
it back. But
That
I'm
kind of goes to my two-part
Right, but we're not to part two yet.
I understand that.
If we were at part two, this is how I would proceed. I would look to direct county staff then, along with legal and along with the bodies, and those mainly would be the roads, obviously a safety aspect and a legal aspect. I would hope that county staff then would be able to move forward with the initiative that the supervisors proposed. That would be how I would proceed. If it was, okay, we're gonna allow a trial period, or we're gonna allow a certain part of roads. If it's no, it's pretty easy, nothing changes. If it's yes partially or yes fully, then we need to have things in place to support that, such as maps, ordinances related to those. But that's the second part.
Right. That's the way I view this too. This is more what the sheriff is envisioning, and why he's willing to participate in this portion of it, because it's fact-finding. He's trying, I'm gonna speak for you a little, Joe. He's gonna be a resource, or his department is gonna be a resource to this committee to come up with the information that they might need to help come up with some conclusions, and recommendations to bring back to the board as to whether or not the board feels that we want to move forward with a resolution or a ordinance to allow some sort of use of county roads with these vehicles. So that's not what I'm looking for out of this particular committee, is any sort of a recommendation or any proposed ordinance or resolution for the use.
I would generally agree. That said, if any group or individual would want to take initiatives and say, here's what I feel and think and plan, they can. Similar to, there was a group that outside the East Dubuque City Council and outside the Corps and all the other people proposed, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had this development along the shore of East Dubuque in Illinois? That wasn't driven by government, it was presented by a private individual or group. And so that's always available for anyone to go forth. But related to this group that has kind of it does have a government oversight, I think it's fair to give them direction. And I feel comfortable with the direction we've described. Does that, I know we've kind of talked about this before, so that's kind of where I'm at.
I think, when I asked the original question,
Okay.
and I think we got our answer, it probably is gonna be, it's either gonna be a one-part process and the committee comes back and says, no, we're not gonna proceed. Then it's done, right?
Well, they're not gonna come back and say we're not gonna proceed. They're gonna come back with information, and we may
We don't know
decide
that.
that we.
I mean, they could.
Well,
I'm
I
not
think
looking,
If you don't mind me saying, we're gonna come back with information. I've got a whole file folder full of information. I'll be happy to give it. So,
Yeah.
there's gonna be plenty of information.
And we're looking for a summary of that group, of that discussion and dialogue. So if the group has met 6 times or 8 times, some summary, some findings, and some general either consensus or here's each side of an economic development type of angle, or here's each side of a safety issue, or here's the government's role that we're seeing in Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Some information, because I don't think we've ever seen a map of here's how many counties allow this, those types of things, nor have we seen detailed studies, possibly from other safety groups and law enforcement groups related to the consequences of ATV and UTV use. That's what I would be looking forward to, that type of information.
We have received some,
We have,
and,
but it's been scattered. I think it's been scattered here and there in a meeting, and I think this is opportunity for a group to dive in deeper and then present, here's what we've learned, and then come back to us and maybe in a more, a concise, organized thing, not a public input, not the personal stories, which are important, but we've kind of gone through that with our listening tours. But this would be more of, here's what the report found, here's what the committee found, and share that in a couple-hour venue. And I anticipate that in January. We'll have this group meet between now and the end of the year and hopefully have that. So maybe what a couple other items, I mean, how often would you like this group to meet? I've proposed a few times, but.
do we leave it up to the committee?
yeah, I have a suggestion for the committee. We had a meeting off-site in the northern part of the county. I have heard from folks in the southern part of the county that, they'd like to have some kind of a meeting in their area. What if we had the committee and the supervisors have a joint meeting and listened again? Because we don't know that all the members of the committee have been to these public meetings, public hearings. Let's have a listening session that includes the committee and, you know, maybe we don't even need to be involved. I guess I was thinking we would be, but let them listen and then let them have their, you know, committee meetings, or perhaps that could be their first committee meeting. I'm just suggesting that. And it's based on input from Dubuque County citizens. Mr. Chairman, are we allowed to, somebody's asking if they can make a comment?
Anyone make some comments? Yeah, if it relates to the committee that we're trying to form, that's what we're attempting to resolve. So, Sheriff Kennedy, any other additional comments?
I would like to thank the sheriff's
Thank you very
department
much.
for agreeing to be part of this process also. I think that's very important for this to have legitimacy, I think.
Agreed. Thank you. So yes, the podium's open. If you have any comments specifically related to the committee structure, that's what we're looking for. And so, Ron, since you were nominated on here,
Yes, Ron McCarthy, 207 Oak Forest Drive, Epworth. To go a little bit further on what Dave Baker had just proposed, I think that would be a great way to start this group off with having you guys attend the first one, at least for the first half hour of it or whatever time it takes, to make sure that we have direction and to make sure that we have a list of questions that you guys need answers, and then we can break away from that. But I think that would be good so that we get started in the most efficient manner with finding out the answers that you guys are looking for.
thank
Thanks,
you, Ron.
Dawn, I have a question. Will this committee be subject to the open meetings laws, regulations?
I did ask that of County Attorney Potter as well, and he said that if it has no, if it's just advisory, it would not have to have, we would not have to post for those open meetings. It would not have to maintain the records.
But we could have them as public meetings.
Absolutely, it's just not a requirement.
And I'd like to err to the side of open access to the citizenry. But
Okay, so maybe we should talk a little bit about the structure. I think we've got our 9 citizens. I think a lot of times the citizens group will need a little more potential help and assistance organizing this. Who else from the county or other agencies would we like to include? So hold that question. I see somebody at the podium. So yes, do you have a comment?
I had another, Ann McDonough, 2469 Whitetail Drive, Asbury. I had another comment that I thought perhaps the board should see about committee makeup. I do think it's important that the board ask the county attorney to be present. As I'm visiting with citizens throughout the county, there are multiple questions that come up that a county attorney could help resolve as we try to collect information. I think that's an important thing as well. Also, I would have just a suggestion that in giving guidance to a committee, you ask the committees to meet in forums that are conducive to civil dialogue, and that they are places where people might normally meet to have conversations that are not necessarily alcohol establishments. It might be important to meet in county libraries and in the city halls of the various communities. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. So that's perfect, that ties into where I would like to go. Who other, I think if we can hash this out now, it'd be good. I've got a representative from the sheriff, a representative from the roads department, engineering department, one of those two, a small city representative, and
conservation.
I got the attorney as well. I did not have conservation, but we can put that on the list as ex officios. The other question, would we want somebody from administration like Dawn to help lead and shepherd that? Or do you feel that our other groups that are more familiar with general rules and orders of meetings would be fine?
I think we need to have somebody to be the
Moderator, the proxy?
moderator, whatever, facilitator of the group.
Any recommendations? Just trying to move it along. I mentioned Dawn's name.
Yeah, and I don't know that, Is,
Mary? I'll mention. I'm just trying to move this forward.
I was just wondering if one of those 5 that you have there could be that person. So that we're not getting a whole bunch of county people there.
Agreed. I'm open to it. What, do you have any suggestions? I'm looking for moving forward, unless the board doesn't want to resolve this now. Board wants to resolve it another time and place, we can, but I think it's
I
within our
just soon
ability.
just soon do it now and
Let's
have
do
it
it.
done.
I would be
So, all right, so-
comfortable with Dawn or Mary or one of the supervisors.
I would not be in favor of a supervisor, but I would think either Dawn or Mary would be a good person to be the organizer, the person generally taking notes, doing the best to facilitate civil discourse, timeliness, those types of things.
Sorry, Don, but I don't think this is Mary's wheelhouse.
Okay, good enough? So you thinking Dawn, or do you want to go back to one of the other?
I still would like to see if we could figure out somebody of those 5 that would be able to do this, and maybe with the assistance of Dawn behind the scenes. If that's not possible, then if Dawn's willing to do it, that's fine. But
So let's go back to the list. Do we all agree? I've got 5. Do we all agree we should have at least request representative from the sheriff, the roads, a small city, somebody from the attorney's office, and then conservation? Is that?
would one of the small cities reps possibly be a mayor that would be willing to take this on as?
I
and
like
be
that, or even city council.
Right.
So I agree. They're used to,
Right.
general rules, orders, process. They're elected official. I like that.
If you're gonna do that, then you gotta look at, because there's numerous towns that have ordinances and some that don't. So do you take someone from a town, a municipality that has the ordinance, and then another one that doesn't?
And I think some of
And,
these
you
people
know-
were on the city. Is Steve Nepper on the city council?
I believe.
I thought I read that.
I believe he is.
Is
Cascade City Council.
So you've already got one on there. Possibly, but I think it's important to move this forward. I think we've got a group that has stated their issues. I think we've got gender balance. I think we've got people that are, for and against it. I'm open either way. We need to make a decision. I think when in doubt, if you have doubts, then pick somebody neutral paid by the county to be a recorder, to be an organizer, a facilitator.
Are you good with taking on this?
Yeah, I'd be fine.
Okay, then let's just do that.
Okay,
and-
all right, so we've got then the facilitator, coordinator, organizer is Dawn Sherman, is a recommendation at this point. It looks like we're getting some consensus on. All 5 of the sheriff, road, small city, attorney, conservation, are we comfortable with those groups and going out, asking them once again? And we'll probably have that in front of us and approve the list, whether it's 1 or 3.
What are we, and I said conservation myself, but what are we looking to get from conservation?
I guess, one of the, getting into discussion, some of the people who are opposed have said, hey, let's look at creating these neat trails off the roads.
Okay, so the trail
So,
aspect of it, not the road use.
I kind of know Brian's position on like Heritage Trail.
Oh, yeah, I think most people do.
Well,
Yeah.
but,
No, that's fine.
But the trail use you're talking about, so potentially that'd be the conservation.
or
to
development of new trails, new trail system.
I think it'd be helpful.
That
I
came
think
from the opposition side.
Okay, I was just curious. I wanted to make sure that it was useful to have them on here. Then how do we pick the small city representative? Do we go out for application again, or?
I think you
I
send a
think-
general application and an email, see who's interested. You've got,
we're
out of
gonna have
18 and 5, you're gonna have like, whatever the math is there, almost over 100 applicants potentially. And you just look for one.
Well, are we asking for a certain size municipality?
I wouldn't make it that difficult. I think you
Under-
invite, I said small cities, so that excludes.
Under
Dubuque.
55,000?
Yes, yes, I would agree with that.
I'm just asking because
I'm just trying to keep this
they're
moving.
all
Right.
So-
structured.
Agreed. I think you ask all of them outside the city of Dubuque. That would be my opinion.
So how do we do that?
I think,
I could send it to the city clerks.
Okay,
That would be,
great.
and then ask them
Can-
to pass it along.
Can we also send it to the mayors, because we've had
Right.
another case where the mayors are saying the city clerks don't always get to them on another issue?
careful here.
Well,
Got a city clerk right there.
I'm only, this is a factual statement. A mayor has expressed concern that he wasn't getting notified. I'm not gonna go into details.
We'll send it to the mayors and the city clerks.
Thank you.
I'm good with
And then
that.
Can we make that appointment the next meeting then? To keep this thing rolling.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
the applications have to be in, to be on the agenda for the next meeting then, so that we can complete this. And then maybe have the other departments have who their representative is going to be, so next meeting, we know exactly who's gonna be on this committee, and then can start running with it.
And I would take it one step further. I'd like a proposed agenda on the meeting times and dates and places.
Can you repeat that again?
I would like meeting times, dates, and places.
At least proposed.
Proposed to subject to, discussion. But I think if we can lead this, I think most of the groups will show up and have proven to show up anywhere generally outside in the county. So I don't think many people, and the meetings can move. I think would be fair enough if we want to move them. And I generally would agree to have those held in public places. I think that would make the most sense.
From the roads perspective, I'll plan on being on that committee, so.
Okay?
Yay, we got one.
All right, we got Swan. We got a name. Okay, Dawn, do you have enough direction to
I do.
lead this?
And we'll have all that ready for the 22nd then.
Great.
Wonderful, good work. Okay, I think we're through it. We have our citizens group, we've got our structure, our order. Maybe so we do want it up to, I kind of mentioned it for discussions, how often we meet. So we'll propose that and then the group can modify it. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Good work. We have our ATV, UTV committee structured and organized. Okay, next on our list. We are on the next page, I believe. Personnel requisitions, is that correct? Okay, we have a lead maintenance worker for a facility maintenance position. Chris, I think we had some discussions on this. Come on up there, Mr. Soder. Good morning. We'll give you a seat and you can push a green button and be official. So, board, you want to restate the questions that we had for Chris related to this position? I don't remember exactly. I think we wanted more background, so let's just start there. Why is this needed, and what is this position?
This goes back to over 3 years ago. Discussions with Mary Ann as we move forward with the change of the original maintenance director strictly took care of the courthouse and some minor things outside of the courthouse. With my position, I've got a lot of stuff going on everywhere, and having somebody at the courthouse that can backstop me when I'm off-site, as well as when I'm on vacation and things, is an ideal situation. This is not going to be an additional position. Excuse me. It'll be a change. One of my maintenance positions would go to a maintenance lead.
Okay, and so as of right now, the current state of play is that you're responsible, you're the lead, and then everyone else is at the same level, generally speaking?
Yes.
Okay.
I've delegated some stuff to Nathan, or excuse me, not to Nathan, to Jason and to Tom Knoll, because they're the two senior guys in the shop. But I need to get somebody in a position to, like I said, backstop me. I'm spending a lot of time off-site with all the construction work that we've got moving forward with, and a number of other items that are going on outside of the courthouse.
And the dollar amount that would be changed, and maybe you can jump in, is there a change in pay related to this position?
Yes, it's about $1 an hour difference between a maintenance worker and our proposed lead maintenance worker. We did review that with the union, so they have approved the wage for that as well. So it'd be about $2,000 a year.
That budgeted or?
That's been budgeted
That's
for
been budgeted.
for the last 3 years.
So this is a position that has existed in the past?
No, it has not existed in the past.
So it's newly created?
Yes.
So Rich was not
No.
a lead? Oh,
That was part of the discussion we'd had originally, which when I took over and Rich moved back into a full-time maintenance position, that I'd had, the discussion had come up with Mary Ann and I 2 or 3 occasions right after I got here, and then it's been a process in the works with a job description and everything else.
What is your employee count, both full-time and part-time, that are in that division department?
There is myself and Jason and Jake and Tom are full-time, and then I have currently 2 part-timers.
A total of 6, then, including yourself. 5, okay.
Is it normal to have 2, a lead and a second in command, basically for 6 people?
When you look at what we have to do on a daily basis, between everything from ordering supplies, reacting to emergency situations, as well as we get a lot of very short notice requests from multiple departments to do things, you know, oh, we need this done in an hour because something's showing up, that sort of thing. And if I'm off-site, somebody's got to be able to take the ball and be able to direct staff. And I'm spending probably 30% of my time, if not more, off-site right now with the West End project going on and some of the things that are going on at Sunnycrest and a few other locations we have things happening.
So are you hands-on on the construction project out there? Are you?
I'm involved in an advisory capacity, and I have been out there already a couple of times looking at how we need to move forward with some of the infrastructure.
So like with job site meetings, that type of thing, you would be participating in
Yes.
those? Okay.
I was on,
Dawn, with your background, you've been here a few months now. How many months has it been?
6 months.
6 months. And an HR background, what do you see related to this lead position? Someone could say that, hey, you're the redundant person if Chris is not here, or do you feel that this is a better role or use of person's time and energy?
My experience is when you have, you would put a lead person in, a lot of times when you're off-site, so like we always had road crews that would have a lead. In this case, again, it's because there's multiple locations that Chris is responsible for, that when he is off-site, so it would not be unusual to have a lead to be able to provide that work direction, to be that go-to. You could, you could temporarily appoint him if he's on vacation. I also think this is a good succession planning opportunity for somebody as well, to be able to get some of that scheduling and a type of management experience for succession planning as well.
So I have a question then, based on if it's additional supervision, and I know you mentioned that the union cooperated and whatever. Well, basically, they were, we came to them and said, we want to create a union position that pays more money, so that they're not going to say no, most likely. Well, the concern then that I would have, maybe not a concern, but have we talked about what shift this would be? Because Chris, what's your typical day? When do you normally?
Anywhere from
4:30, 5 o'clock?
anywhere from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. It varies.
But we have people
before and
here after that.
Yeah, I've got one, I have one full-time custodian after that.
Okay, so we would want to make sure then that the lead position covers that individual's shift as well. Is that not correct? Because
And
if you're not here to
the-
supervise, then that person would be here. I guess I want to make sure that
The second
we're not,
shift,
I want to make sure
Yeah.
we're not doubling up where it's not necessary.
no, I understand.
If it's to be in your absence, then I would envision maybe somebody starting after you and being here after you leave. Otherwise, to me, it's, I don't know that it's necessary. I don't know if my counterparts feel the same way.
We have there's planned shift overlap already right now. I have my,
Well, I'm
My
talking
full-
about for this position.
for this position, I don't know that it would be necessary to put him on an after-hours position. They'd be on call, just like I am, when it comes to that. I mean, right now, all of us in the maintenance side of the house, not the custodial side, are on call all the time. But there
Okay,
are,
but to me, that's an argument that we wouldn't necessarily need the extra title. I'm not convinced.
Sure. Wait, do you have a candidate for this or person you're recommending for this position?
Yeah.
And who is that?
That'd be Jason.
Jason.
I've been working with him since he's been here to, one, be able to cover for when I'm gone,
Okay.
as well as when I'm off-site. And he's doing an excellent job with picking, working with those things. So my goal is to be able to have somebody in my absence, or even if I'm on-site and I'm tied up with a board meeting or something else, I've got somebody that can actually jump in and be able to direct staff to be able to take care of things. And a lot of that is reactive here.
Dawn, would you concur that Jason would be a good candidate if we were to choose? He would be a good candidate for this position?
Absolutely. I think he probably will have two that are eligible for it.
Okay.
Who would meet the qualifications, and then we would have the union contract to dictate who would be appointed at that point.
Okay.
And then is it your recommendation for us to approve this?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking to me.
I know where you're at.
We gotta double yes.
Sorry.
You're lined up, so I had to look over you. Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the requisition.
I will second it. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just am
Not
not convinced that we need it with this size group and the lack of the commitment that it's actually gonna be somebody in supervision in Chris's absence, when Chris isn't here.
So maybe what I would recommend, based upon that discussion, if we can just, make sure that that is one of the main outcomes that we are looking for, is that we do have that backup. It's just not a pay raise and they have a title. They actually are serving a function when you're on vacation, when you're unavailable, and sometimes your phone doesn't always get to you, that is one of the requirements of this position, that they do serve in that supervisor and management type, supervisory type of role.
Yeah, because the one thing I like that Don said is this is a possible secession type of thing. So we're training somebody moving forward to maybe step into Chris's shoes, because I imagine he's not going to be here 20 years from now.
Yeah. And this is a decision the board could change, is that correct? So I think Supervisor Baker's issues are legitimate, and we should look at them, make sure we fulfill this role. So motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Motion carries 2-1.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next we have as a courthouse security, permanent part-time courthouse security position. I've read that in our thing. If you want, Dawn, do you want to give us a little background on this?
This one is just a replacement as well as the next one. They're not adding any additional FTEs.
Permanent part-time, okay, so I'm following you there. All right. Any more discussion on the courthouse security position?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Personnel requisition.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next personnel requisition is a park ranger for conservation. This is a replacement position, I read. Okay,
Motion to approve.
Second?
we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Mary, we don't have any other table or pending items, do we? Okay, at this time, then we're up to public comments. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters which they are concerned to that person, which are not on the agenda item. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address, make your comments. However, no formal action on your comments may be taken at this time because of the notice requirements.
Ann McDonough, 2469 Whitetail Drive, Asbury. I just wanted to draw the board's attention to the numerous open vacancies on boards and commissions. And I know that you gentlemen are aware of that, but I guess the public comment is intended to bring it also to the public view as well, that we have one committee, the Equal Opportunity Committee, that has 12 vacancies and has had 12 vacancies for, I think, a long, significantly long period of time. When we did a little bit of research on that with some administrative help here, we couldn't even see when in fact that committee last had anyone on it. So there are several committees here that I think we probably need to step up our game with and bring in opportunity for citizen input. We want young people to find this to be an attractive place to stay and to relocate. And so I think I would just ask the board to do whatever we might be able to think of to help fill those seats.
Historically, since I've been on the board, going through the agenda, the chair would read through these at least periodically, put them out for public consumption, to try to bring it forward a little bit more. Takes a little bit of time to read through all those, but that was something that we used to do, to try to help with that and
That's excellent.
try to entice people to step forward and serve the community. So maybe that's something that
Right.
Jay would want to look at, maybe going forward.
Yeah, happy to do
And I-
that if the board would like to, yeah.
I
Fine.
comment, I believe Dawn has been working on this. There's some, she's been doing recruiting, and then, other committees such as the ATV, UTV thing have come up. So I think this is a priority for us. It's a point well taken. I think in the past, there have been some that, for whatever reason, weren't filled. I think that's one of the things that Dawn's has been working on. I've talked to her about it when she came on, and I believe that's a priority. So I'm hoping that you'll talk to her, or you have talked to her as well.
Right.
So-
I think one of the things that she's done is actually break the agenda items into a little bit different heading, just saying informational only as compared to those that are actively being, so subsection A, under that where we did appoint folks today to those committees that you did that, and then subsection B. So just trying to draw even through the agenda that there's more attention being drawn to that. But thank you, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, so we are in public comment section. Anyone like to make a comment? Please go to the podium, state your name.
Motion to recess for 5 minutes?
Second?
We have motion and a second to recess for 5 minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are in recess. Alrighty.
So we're on entrance permit.
I will call the Board of Supervisors back into session. We have our work session for entrance permit with Tim Daly. And so we have really good mics in here, so everything you say will be on the record. So I would greatly appreciate just a
And we have
little-
cameras too, so we can
We
identify
got
you.
cameras as well. But Mr. Daly needs his time to get his entrance permit approved. I'm sure that's his function. Tammy, you want to lead us through this?
Sure. This is entrance permit variance for Timothy and Lori Daly on permit number 17-38. Attached to this memo is information regarding the entrance permit number 17-38 for Timothy and Lori Daly, who currently live at 25432 New Vienna Road, Farley, Iowa. The property consists of 277.62 acres, and that is all zoned A1 agricultural. Currently, there are possibly 4 field entrances and 1 residential entrance to the property. The Dalys are planning to add a new field entrance along Jewett Road to be able to access their farm property. The new entrance will need a variance because it cannot meet the spacing requirements. The new field entrance will meet the required site distance of 425, but cannot meet the spacing requirements of 285. They have a 492 feet of spacing to the right and 187 feet of spacing to the left. The Dalys are requesting a variance to the spacing to allow them to place a new field entrance on the property. After speaking with the county engineer, actually, we just kind of changed some of this morning and speaking with him again about it. Originally, they were looking at having this be moved 187 feet towards the existing field entrance across from it. But after review this morning, Anthony and I just spoke with Mr. Daly about it. Anthony feels that the site distance is better with where he actually asked for it. So Anthony has actually kind of changed his mind on this. There was a proposed, as you see, we were looking at moving at the 187 feet, but now Anthony's not really suggesting that. He's suggesting that we keep it at the proposed because it's going to have better site distance than where it's at now.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, that's the one.
So at this proposed? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, put it where it's
Okay.
proposed, where
So
we
the
were going to
document-
talk.
The maps are right then?
The maps are right.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure.
Our written document you would change.
This is a gravel road, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Anthony, do we have traffic counts? Is it minimal?
There's 45 vehicles per day on this.
So site distance always trumps spacing, so
Especially on,
that's why your recommendation is to leave it where it's at for a better site distance?
yeah, the proposed, that Mr. Daly would like is, within 25 feet of the minimum site distance. I mean, it's greater than that, but, so if we move it, let them, or force them to move it, across from the existing entrance, we're gonna, I think, get below the minimum desirable, site distance. So in my opinion, site distance trumps, spacing.
You had initially suggested moving it to across from the existing entrance, so not to create a new contact or conflict point?
Yeah, we try to keep it, all in one conflict point area there. But after kind of reviewing this and realizing, I think we're gonna hurt our sight distance moving it down there, that I don't wanna, I would not wanna recommend that.
Okay,
Make a motion to approve the.
second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the driveway entrance. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. You have your driveway entrance.
Pretty
Thanks for
tough.
coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Motion to recess till 5, or till 5? Oh, 11 maybe?
We have a motion and a
Second.
second to recess till 11. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are in recess till 11. You have a chance to look at some numbers here.
Is there
Board of Supervisors back into session for our 11 o'clock work session regarding the operational management of Sunnycrest Manor. I'll yield the direction to Supervisor Klein. I think you requested this work session.
Yes, I did.
So if you have a
I was wondering
order or
if
an
we
idea.
shouldn't maybe have Chris and Emily and maybe the chair of the two, the advisory and board of trustees maybe come to the front. Would that be appropriate maybe?
I think that's fine if we're looking for dialogue.
Yes.
I think that's probably good to have those stakeholders there. For sure, the elected officials, I'm trying to think from the trustee board. Mrs. Frick or Mr. Muir. And then, do you want to, well, Craig is ranking his way up here, okay.
Oh,
There you go. And sometimes that happens, it's not your fault. But if you, and she's gonna try to reduce that if you can. But I think, is it that one right in front of Craig is just problem?
It's my magnetic personality.
Turn that one off to red. Actually, turn that one to red and use the other mics. And so they are directional mics. If you just kind of point them right to where you're speaking, you're not going to hurt them. We can have the audio recorded for that, but we're still working on a few kinks, and that one seems to be bad. But welcome, everyone. This work session was requested by Supervisor Klein, so I will defer to him and let him lead as far as where we're interested in taking the dialogue.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate all you coming in to have this dialogue, and that's really what I'm looking for here, is some dialogue, because I've been trying to accomplish some things over the years and kind of stalled out here lately as far as trying to move this, my mind forward. First thing I want to say, I want everyone to listen very closely, and I'll try to speak English. I have no intention of trying to close Sunnycrest Manor. I am 180 degrees opposite of that. My goal is to make sure that Sunnycrest is here a long time from now, providing services to our residents that need that service. So I hope everyone understands that, because it seems like this always gets turned over into Klein's trying to shut down Sunnycrest, and it gets a little irritating after about 8 years of hearing that. So that is the goal here, is to see if we can come up with a long-term sustainable solution to keep Sunnycrest open for a long, long time, but not being as reliant on county property tax dollars as it has been in the past. A little background, I asked Stella to get some numbers together for us, and I shared that with a few of you. I ran out of copies. But since fiscal year 11, the average county taxpayer contribution to Sunnycrest has been $2.9 million. That's the average. And don't know if that includes FY '18 or not, Stella, does it? It does not include 19, okay. Of that, 1.85 is the number that came directly, or went directly to operations, and approximately $1 million of it came from Board of Trustees levy to maintain the building and the facility. So that's where those numbers came from. And it's fluctuated quite a bit over that time frame. But that's, what, do I have a total here or not? I don't think I do. So anyway, that's the main nut we're looking at. For fiscal year 19, the budget is proposed to be $2.8 million from, to supplement operations with almost $1.3 million in a tax levy from the Board of Trustees for, so that's coming up to pushing, well, it's over $4 million. And correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have the quality assurance payments included in on that budget, right?
Correct.
Which is possibly another $300,000 or
$200,000.
$200,000. We don't know whether or not if the budget's going to come in low enough to where that will be able to be absorbed in the existing budget, or if we have to amend the budget going forward. But anyway, so this year we're looking at approximately $4 million tax subsidies to maintain Sunnycrest instead of the historical average of 2.9. So we're really going in the wrong direction here. We're over $1 million higher this year than what the average has been over the previous 7, 8, 9 years for the county. So on different occasions, I've made motions at the Board of Supervisors here to ask the Board of Trustees to see if we could go out and at least ask if there's other entities out there that would be willing to possibly operate Sunnycrest Manor. I think there's some advantages to that. One would be that we would look for a nonprofit that is hopefully from the community, maybe not, but is an expert in this industry. Someone that has some size to it that would be able to possibly reduce the costs because of the administrative costs and redundancy that could possibly be eliminated by having a larger entity take it over. So there's a way of possibly getting some cost savings that way. And I've also been told, and don't know if it's true, that there's possibly some other revenue sources that we're not exploring as well as we can, or we might not have the ability to do that a larger entity may be able to do that. And my proposal would be that the county would be still supplying the Board of Trustees levy, so this entity would be getting basically a free building. I gotta believe that there's some people out there that are running a facility, that they're paying for the facility, that would be interested in trying to run a facility that someone else is paying for the facility. That's probably 20-30% of a normal operating cost to an operation like that they would not be responsible for. So I think this may be attractive. But if we don't ask the question, we're never ever going to get anywhere. So that's what I'm looking for from you folks here today, is if we could start a dialogue to see whether or not this is something that makes sense, which I think on the surface it makes perfect sense. Why would we want to continue to spend $3 million of taxpayer dollars if we may not have to and still be able to provide as good services to the residents as we are now? Because Sunnycrest does an awesome job of taking care of our residents. There's no question about that. No one's ever said anything other than that. But if we don't ask the question, I don't believe we're ever going to get someone to come forward and volunteer their services, because I wouldn't do it. It doesn't make sense for someone to come forward unless they know that there is a real want or need for their services. But there doesn't seem to be any motivation from the Board of Supervisors to take this step. So basically I'm bypassing the Board of Supervisors here to try to accomplish this. There's no doubt in my mind that if we are the ones that are driving this conversation, that we are being proactive on doing this instead of being reactive, sooner or later, there's going to be an issue come up where we're going to be in financial situation where we may have to do something we don't want to with Sunnycrest, and then you make decisions that aren't the best for everyone involved. So why wouldn't we want to be on the driving end of this, being proactive and seeing if there are some opportunities out there? Now, there may not be. I don't know if there is. But if we don't ask that question and aren't more open about it and have a organized process to try to do this, I don't think we're ever going to find out whether there's an opportunity or not. But for us to not ask that question or to take that step, I think is extremely detrimental to the taxpayers of Dubuque County. So I would just like to get more information, do questions and answer type thing between us, see why we think this is a good idea, why we don't think this is a good idea, and hopefully when it's all done, the Board of Trustees and or the Advisory Board will be willing to take this on and try to move this forward to see if there is a way of accomplishing this. Now, Black Hawk County are in the final stages right now of selling their facility for $6.7 million, I think I saw in the newspaper. So that will make Dubuque County the only county in the state of Iowa that has, Chris, you're shaking your head, am I wrong? Okay, well, correct me later, that I'm aware of that has this type of facility operated by a county entity. So Black Hawk County was able to accomplish it. I am not in favor of selling Sunnycrest Manor. Let's get that straight. I'm just looking for somebody that would be willing to come in and operate it instead of Dubuque County, because I think there's better ways of doing this than the way we're doing it now. So I will yield the floor.
Would you like to have some opening statements before we
Sure.
discuss some panels? Do you have comments?
Just a few. Our facility is in much better shape than Black Hawk County's. We're owned, the facility's owned by the trustees. They've done a great job maintaining it. So it's like an apples to oranges comparison. We have continue with our positive nursing facility surveys, zero deficiency surveys in the Sunrise unit the last 2 years. And we have decreased costs in the nursing facility by about $13 a day per I assume that's per patient day, and a little less than that in the Sunrise unit. In general, I think we're heading in the right direction. We've brought at the recommendation of the administration, have brought the dietary and environmental services back in-house, saving the taxpayers money, and just as importantly, adding to the quality of care and to the residents' satisfaction. And, again, going out in the private sector, gee, I'm trying to think of something maybe statewide that hasn't worked out so well. But my position hasn't changed. The timing of the meeting, to me, doesn't pass the smell test, but that's all I got to say.
I guess I'll make some just brief comments, and then we'll have some dialogue, potentially with questions for the group here. And so, during the about 2.5 years that I've been on the board here, we've probably had at least 10 meetings, if not more, related to Sunnycrest and Sunnycrest financials. My understanding, in your 8 years on the board, It's been a topic of discussion. My understanding is the Telegraph Herald has probably run a dozen, if not more, articles related to Sunnycrest. Some about the background, some about the 100 years Sunnycrest has been going, some about the financials. I know Sunnycrest is well-run from the evidence I see from the state reports, from the interaction I have from the operations board, from county staff. I generally know that the Board of Trustees that owns the facility is generally pleased with operations and pleased with the facility. That's my general assessment. I've also heard very little comments, almost non-existent, from the public related to any dissatisfaction on Sunnycrest. In fact, I've heard much, much more, probably 10 to 1, if not 50 or 100 to 1, related to Sunnycrest being of value to the community. I also know from our financial audits, from our Moody's reports, the county's in a really good situation. The development, the residents, the taxpayers, the various local governments, I think have done a tremendous job in working together to lead Dubuque County into a very good financial situation. And it's not my opinion, it's Moody's, and it's our audit report. They're all healthy. That's how we were able to lower the tax levy for the first time in significantly about 20 years. And so this issue's been on the floor for 8 years. I think it's been asked and answered. In my 2.5 years, I haven't received one email, one call, one text, or one meeting from any healthcare provider like Stonehill or Luther Manor or Hillcrest saying they're interested. And so, you know, it's not my money. It's not Supervisor Baker's money. It's not Supervisor Klein's money. It's the public's money. And so overall, I see the public, whose money it is telling me as an elected official, stay the course. This is a valuable asset. Do we have questions for the group?
I'd like to follow up.
You have the floor.
Most of what JSA said was 100% right about the county, how we've been doing things. It's working well. Sunnycrest is doing a great job with the job they do, like Dave said. Absolutely no disagreement with anything that they had to say, other than the fact that we're not going in the right direction. This year, we're looking at a substantially higher contribution than we've had in the past. We're obviously running in different circles, because I do hear people talk to me that can't believe that we are spending the kind of money that we're spending up at Sunnycrest. And that by itself isn't the issue for me. The issue for me is that we are spending the money that we might not have to be spending. $3 million a year, people. 4 years, we could pay for the West Campus out of the savings that we would have if we can find a good fit for Sunnycrest. And that's only if we can find a very good fit for Sunnycrest that we are assured is going to provide the type of services that we in Dubuque County are used to having. So if there's not someone out there, then we know we need to continue to work the way we're working, trying to continue to improve, make sure that we're doing the job that we're expected to do. But that doesn't mean that we can't ask if there's someone else out there that's able and willing to do this and save the county taxpayers a considerable amount of money. $3 million a year, that's $30 million over 10 years, folks. That's not chump change. So why can't we at least just ask the question and see if ask it legitimately, if there are people out there, and I believe there are. I think there may have even been some conversation going on, but nobody's going to come forward on their own volition just to see if they can do this if we don't express an interest in doing this. That's what I'm asking.
I think you were gonna make a comment before. We'll give you that opportunity. And if there's anything from a financial vantage point that you want to mention, you can do it. You're not obligated to it. I just know you had mentioned something related to a comment Supervisor Klein said, if it's germane. Not?
Germane.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other comments we have from the group here?
Get the ball rolling. First of all, thank you for having this discussion. I kind of think having these, I guess I need to talk here. I think having these types of dialogues is really important. I add my voice to many we've heard today, everyone, that Sunnycrest is doing pretty well. The operations board, or the advisory board, excuse me, plays a minimal role in that. It's primarily the management and staff at Sunnycrest. And I think the impetus for this discussion today has a lot to do with what's happening in Waterloo and in Blackhawk County. And I think it's important to acknowledge some of the differences in terms of the two communities. First of all, we've been fortunate to have trustees that have done a stellar job of making sure that the building, the bones, the advancement structurally of technology is second to none. They've done an exemplary job, and I don't want to cast aspersions on what's happened in Blackhawk County, but I don't think they really have the bones in the building. I think it's important as well to note, there's been lots of discussion about, who's talking to whom about the advisability of Sunnycrest and the continued subsidy and the directions it's going. My sense is that the quality of life and the quality of care for the residents has kind of translated into some measure of stakeholder support. I think that it goes through the community. I guess I look at what's happening in Waterloo, and I say, well, there's two different situations. This is not something that we should even kind of consider here. The timing isn't right. Things are going well. Management has done a very good job of changing morale. Management has done a very good job of putting in the financial controls that I think we need to allow us to kind of look down. I really can't comment on this. I'd have to really take a look at it, but I will take a look at it and I will comment back on kind of the direction. My sense is things are going well. Now, having said that, it's my view that given the industry, given the trends that are occurring in healthcare, and particularly in nursing care, that the challenges that I think Supervisor Klein may have alluded to are going to rear their heads in the future. And I think standalone facilities will have a more difficult time making a go of nursing care and skilled care and senior living in the future. I've seen the industry move from one of mom and pop into a consolidation in assisted living and independent living. I think those changes are going to be more profound in nursing care. Chris in the last year has had to deal with many hundreds of changes in the regulatory environment. And not sure how she's done it, but she's done it. Those are really only the tip of the iceberg in terms of things that will be coming down the pike in the next decade. Communities like Stonehill or Bethany or Sunnycrest as standalone communities will have a very difficult time because they don't have the scale, they don't have the technical infrastructure, and they don't have the ability over the long term to really effectively deal with the regulatory environment. So I think it is essential that the community reach out to others, collaborate, find areas they can work together, and this will form the basis of a network that will continue to provide excellent quality of care and excellent quality of life to people in Dubuque. So the advisory board has quietly been talking with some, trying to find common ground and synergy in which to kind of base agreements and cooperation. And I think it's something that takes some time. Kind of having said that, there is some time, if given the political environment, there is some time that before I think this reaches a critical mass. But I think it is inevitable that it will reach a critical mass, and the regulatory environment and reductions in reimbursement rates all will make it extremely difficult for a Sunnycrest to survive. But it's a ways into the future, and there's lots of rolling stock assets in this community that can help. But right now, I think it's one of those things we need to kind of let the trustees do their job and make sure that the facility continues to have the capabilities and continue to have the capitalization that's occurring. They make some great decisions. That's only going to give Sunnycrest a stronger position in the future when it has to rise up to meet these particular challenges. And I think the advisory board has very little in the way of actual power, and we have kind of a large task before us. But the task mostly is bringing people together and deciding the direction we want to go, and that's something that involves everyone from the supervisors to the trustees to the management. So I hear kind of what's being said here. I don't have fundamental disagreements with much of any of it, except that we're moving in the right direction right now. And at some point in the future, I think that we'll have some ability to share some costs, share some services with people we know, people we trust, with our neighbors. The idea of going to a potentially a nonprofit or a for-profit from somewhere else, if I had a family member that was in the facility in Black Hawk County, I'd be kind of concerned. The residents at Sunnycrest are extremely fragile. They're individuals that don't have a lot of choices. They're individuals that I think enjoy a good quality of care and a quality of life, and we got to do what we can to preserve that. And I don't think it's going to happen, with a for-profit. That's not to say we don't have a lot of work to do to spread out and begin to share some of those costs. Because I'll be really candid, a lot of the communities, senior living communities and nursing care communities, rely on Sunnycrest for those patients and residents that can't be placed somewhere else. So we're providing a significant service, and hats off to everybody who's doing it. I think there needs to be some sort of recognition of that on the parts of these other facilities that reap significant benefits from the model and the mission of Sunnycrest. So anyway, I got the ball rolling. Somebody else should stand up and run with it. I would also invite one of the exec board members of the advisory board, who's here hiding in the back, Peg Stokel, who could maybe comment a little bit more on maybe some of the challenges standalone facilities are going to be facing in the future, if that's something you have an interest in.
If you'd be interested in speaking, we could do that. So we've got three up here. Any comments anyone would like to make at this point? Frank? Yeah, you could just talk. You're good.
Okay. I'm Sheila Frank, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, and I would just like to say that our job is to maintain the building and the grounds, and in that we are sustainable because we use the funds that we get from the property tax levy, and those are the only funds that we use. And we very carefully and economically and judiciously invest those funds and spend those funds on projects that are necessary to keep a 100-year-old building functional, to keep our residents healthy and comfortable. so.
Thank you. So I apologize, I've forgotten your name, but it was mentioned, if you would like to speak, you're welcome to come up here. You're under no obligation, but your name was mentioned, so I'd like to give you the invitation if you would like to come forward.
Peggy Stokel.
Thank you.
She'll get back, she'll
All
get
right.
back to me somehow, I'm sure. She's on the committee.
Come on in, have a, oh, there you are. Pull that seat over there.
Well, I'd like to thank Craig for bringing me up here.
I mentioned it's going to be coming at some point in the future.
Well, I think it's a very complicated situation just because there's a lot of factors to consider. I agree with what Craig is saying, that standalones, you know, for us, we're diversified, so we're able to compensate for that Medicaid population that we care for. Obviously, everybody has good intentions when we talk about Sunnycrest, so I understand, you know, the position that everyone is taking. I also believe that there are some possibilities with partnerships down the road that would sustain Sunnycrest. So it's just a matter of having those conversations. Who should be in those conversations? How can we move it forward so that we're looking at everything and we're not in a crisis mode, like you said, Daryl. So I think we have to go back and kind of look too, you know, at the report that was given this morning and have some further conversations. But, you know, there's a lot of unknowns, and I think we just have to have people at the table that are, you know, knowledgeable, and, you know, there's that trust factor that's really important, because, you know, looking at, you know, someone managing Sunnycrest, you know, those are pieces that are going to be very important to the residents, employees, and the community. So I know we've had some conversations, and we've talked about certain possibilities, and you know, I think our environment is highly regulated and very time consuming sometimes, but who's going to drive those conversations? How can we sit down and where do you begin? There's a lot to think about and a lot to, you know, discuss. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Does anyone?
So do we think there are some discussions that we should be having now and in the future about these partnerships, whether it's a limited partnership or basically handing the reins over to a different entity or somewhere in between? How and when do we start these conversations? Because that's really what I'm trying to get going here. We have gone nowhere
Yeah.
for a long time here, other than just keep spending the money. And unless we have another option, that's what we're going to continue to do.
Right.
Well,
We're
think
gonna
of it as maybe an evolutionary process as opposed to a revolutionary process. I think, you know, part of it is whether it's, you know, working with other communities who have, for example, you know, better integrated their electronic medical records, and how do we more fully integrate the savings of the electronic medical record throughout our facility. There's a variety of things that we can consider, and we've kind of talked about, that could kind of hold maybe the beginning steps of relationships that may strengthen over time. That's really, I guess, what I was suggesting. I don't think it's a question of you know, the supervisors changing their management agreement and backing out of the management agreement with the trustees and someone else entering. I think there's ways, not to that particular point, that collaboration can save resources and provide for better experience for staff.
But in my mind, we need to have those discussions sooner better than later, because the environment is changing out there. Regulations are becoming more and more robust and more time consuming, harder for you to comply with, I'm sure. You see, so why wouldn't we have more of these discussions now? And the Board of Trustees has to be involved in this, I think, at a very high level, because that's who we have the contract with. The county leases the facility from the Board of Trustees. So if the county was ever to say, we don't want to be the operator of Sunnycrest anymore, that would fall on top of the Board of Trustees. So I think they would have a very high level of interest to make sure that we have a very viable and robust operation going forward that serves the residents well and serves the taxpayers well. And that's what I'm trying to get going here. I just don't want to sit on this thing for another 3 or 4 years and not have anything happen.
Well, I think that we've been doing this for 8 years under.
And we've made a lot of changes.
And in my 2.5 years, we've had numerous discussions. I think you're just not happy with the outcome.
You're right.
You want to eliminate the funding, but the rest of the group in the community has been providing the service and the care at Sunnycrest, and it's working by everyone's statement so far. And so why you want to change that doesn't seem to be a motivation to me. Now, I mean, you can have arguments related to should the government fund a variety of things, from law enforcement to mental health to capital improvement plans, to parks. You could have all those discussions. But if you look at the service provided and you look at the discussion that has happened around Sunnycrest over the last 3 to 8 years, I think the question's been asked and answered. And by all the financial reviews and all of the current assessments, the current state of play in the future looks good. And the past is 100 years. I think that's your answer right now. Now, 3 or 5 years from now, if it's drastically different, and I hear from our providers that everything's gone to hell in a handbasket, then yeah, maybe we take some different steps. But I just don't see the trouble in River City that you're trying to trump up. I see people doing their best. I see them caring for people at Sunnycrest. I see the community supporting it, and I see the fiscal responsibility that has happened since I've been on this board. And so I just, we've had quite a few meetings. We can have more, see if we have a different outcome, but it appears that we're headed down the same direction we have before, that the current state of play related to Sunnycrest is acceptable and in very good condition. That's where I'm at on it.
I disagree. I think we just made some headway right here. That somebody is actually willing to maybe have some discussions about trying to head off the inevitable. Let's wait until the car runs off the track and then we'll fix it. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be proactive. We're supposed to be looking forward. We're supposed to make sure we don't run into financial crises. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. We're spending a lot of money every year that I'm not sure we need to. And I don't like the way things have been going. I don't think that's been a secret. You don't like the way things go with the city of Dubuque. You keep hammering on that too. So I mean, we have our pet grievances, and we can continue to.
It's not one of mine. I think the city of Dubuque is very well run, but that's another topic.
Anyway,
Maybe we have we'll keep it moving. This group has been addressed. We have people from the public here, so if the board would like, I would see if anyone else would want to speak at the podium. So if anyone would like to add comment related to this topic, I'm all open for open dialogue. Feel free to go to the podium, state your name. We'll yield some time and see somebody moving.
Couple of them.
All right. You could queue up there.
My name is Ann McDonough, 2469 Whitetail Drive, Asbury, Iowa. I'm a candidate for the Board of Supervisors, and since March, I have been attending the advisory council meetings at Sunnycrest Manor. I have found them to be well-run. I have found the management style to be effective, the understanding of financial arrangements and year-to-year reporting. I have found it to meet my expectation as a business owner. I've also been involved in nonprofit management. They have met my expectations. Now, that being said, something that I've also pointed out to the advisory council is that it's known industry-wide that long-term care is in a period of transition. And the reimbursement rate from the state of Iowa for Medicaid for long-term nursing is insufficient. That is known, that is a fact. Unless we change who makes that decision, we can expect the same result. In other long-term care facilities, the loss, as I believe Peg indicated, the loss of Medicaid patient reimbursement is transferred as kind of a silent tax to the other individuals inside that nursing home. Everybody else pays a little more. So if you're not on Medicaid, you're in fact in a private pay situation, you pay more money. Your folks, your aunts and uncles pay more. Sunnycrest cannot do that. We stand bare bones and face the repercussion of the Medicaid reimbursement rate. All right, third issue. There is such a thing as collaboration. In my months attending the advisory council meetings, I have not heard of these silent discussions and these reaching outs to other folks to try to do some kind of collaboration and cost sharing. I think that the folks I see before you are smart, bright, and attuned to the times. If you want them to explore collaboration on medical records, I bet they would do that. If you want to explore cost savings through the sharing of some kind of technology, they could do that. The difficulty is that they are inside of an entity that is a governmental entity. You just don't share technology with a private industry. That's just not how that's typically done. So if the advisory council wants to go forward, those are wonderful suggestions and they should be explored at the advisory council level. We have folks there who have great skill set to pursue that. But it isn't just a simple thing. It's very complicated. Last point. When I visit with folks about Sunnycrest and the Black Hawk County situation, this is what I say. That in today's world, when you know your mission, which Sunnycrest does, and you meet that mission to a very high level of standard, which you do, then you assume that that's kind of a leadership role. The fact that Dubuque County is the last county to have a home shouldn't be frightening. That means you're leading. At the ECR region, Supervisor Klein, before you were present in the room, well, no, you were actually present in the room for this part. We had someone in Johnson County come forward and say they wanted our regional healthcare system to support a grant to begin to look at dual diagnosis patients who are costing taxpayers in Johnson County money because they don't have a long-term nursing care home. So we are coming full back to this. Counties who've made this decision to do away with their nursing care facilities are wondering how they're going to meet this need that's arrived in our current environment. I appreciate your time. I do appreciate both the advisory board and also the trustees, but of course the staff and management at Sunnycrest, they produce under great stress and great scrutiny a truly wonderful product for the folks that live there that I'm proud of.
Thank you.
My name is Kurt Kiesling, 5109 Park Place, Asbury, Iowa. I too am a candidate for the supervisor's race this time. I couldn't agree more with what Ann McDonough was saying, with perhaps one caveat or one add-on to that is, I know that Supervisor Klein is looking for other options. It does not say that he wants to implement those options. Every meeting that I've been to, he constantly says that this is not the end game. This is just something that we should look at. 2 years ago, when I ran against Supervisor Baker, this is exactly what I said. Every option needs to be looked at, not because you have to implement it, but because you should be prepared should something come up where you have to implement that option or a combination of options. The fact that everything is working well certainly goes kudos to making everything work well so far, and I don't have any issue with that at all, none at all. The one thing that I would look at is, I guess there are two examples that I would use from my own history. The one is the issue with Jay, you're a businessman, you understand this exactly. The Subaru manufacturing plant that's here in the United States had $1 million plus in waste that was going out the door in garbage. And somebody said, why don't we do something about this? Because it would be good for the environment, it'd be good for the bottom line. Somebody said, well, everything seems to be working really well right now. We're top of our game, we're doing well. Why mess with something that's working? He said, well, it'd be worth it to look into. So they did. They formed a committee and they looked into it. What they wound up doing in about a year's time was they reduced that $1 million to $0. They increased the potential of not putting waste back into the environment, and they increased economic growth in those areas because they were able to use those recycled materials in other entities to get rid of their waste. They looked into a problem that they didn't see as a problem, but it made good sense to them. It made good sense to them on a business scale, it made good sense to the community, made good sense to the environment. Everything should be looked into. Not saying you have to implement it. Again, not saying you have to implement it. The next thing that I would point out is when I got on the city council in Asbury, the city council was making very, very minimal use of TIF money, the tax incentive programs. Okay, so I pushed for, why don't we use this more? And it was brought up, well, everything seems to be working really well right now with our budgets. And it was. And we don't want to mess with our budgets because it causes more problems with our budget system. So we pushed for it. Our city council started to push for it. And we started to realize that what we would gain from that is, yeah, there would be a little bit more work involved, but we would manage to save or keep the tax rate static for all the years that I was on the council. Never had to raise the taxes any. The city of Asbury was given an award for 5 times the national growth. We did some good things because we explored an option that wouldn't have been explored before. Because again, everything was working like it was supposed to be. Again, my kudos for everything working like it's supposed to. But we need to look at the future. Ann McDonough pointed out that the trend is going to be that there's going to be some changes, and we all know that. You know that. Let's look at some options before we have to look at some options. It's about leverage. Right now, you folks have the leverage because you are sitting in a facility that is functioning well and functioning properly. Use that leverage to entice somebody to come in and become a partner, a stockholder, a shareholder, whatever you want to call them, but to come along. You don't have to use all of one option. How about doing a mix-up? There's part of options that can be used and part of options that don't have to be used. But if you don't ever explore those options, you will never, ever know. And I, too, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, Wayne Demmer, 9018 Lone Pine Road, Epworth, Iowa. Just, I guess, a comment, good discussion, you know, what everybody's talked about. I've watched and what Sunnycrest has done, and I don't think that's not the question today. I'm up here speaking as a business person. You know, what you're talking about today is you look forward. If you don't look forward, you don't see something coming, and that's when you got a real problem. I remember my years of experience on the farm, there's issues that have been brought to me, my sons, and I keep saying, oh, no, we don't have to do that. No, we're doing fine, we're doing fine. Well, a few years you look at it and you're finally thinking, yeah, we probably should do that because things continue to change in any business. Once it's implemented, most of the time I have stood there and looked back and said, we should have did it sooner. So I think the point what you guys were all talking about is if you don't look if there's something better, you don't want to be blindsided. And I think that's part of this discussion today is, are there better ways? As Kurt said, it's not saying you have to implement, but at least you're aware if something starts changing of something out there. So I guess all I'm trying to say is don't just because things are going good. You know, we all have those good years, but boy, when the bad years come, then you're wishing that you would have started looking sooner. So that's mine.
Okay, so we're on a public session here, so if anyone would like to speak, I'll give you the podium. Otherwise, we'll come back to the group and maybe see if we can have some conclusions. So, okay, Craig,
I
you,
just-
yes,
yeah,
sure,
I-
you have a comment?
I just have one observation and one clarification.
Flip that one up and use that
This
one.
goes up.
Sorry,
Testing. Okay.
yeah, she'll try to put it down further, but
We've read in the newspaper, heard several people state that, Sunnycrest is really the last county-run nursing home in the state. And if you're going to say it just using those words, that is correct, once Waterloo is gone. If instead, however, you're going to look at, are there county-owned and run facilities that provide other healthcare services in addition to nursing care services, such as Jackson County or Clayton County or some other counties as well, then that is not the case. There are other facilities that are supported by taxes and supported and managed by popularly elected trustees, similar to what we have in this county. So we're not really standing by ourselves at this particular point. Having said that, I do know that in the past 2 legislative sessions in Des Moines, certain communities, larger urban communities, had been lobbying our legislators about the notion of maybe ending this special consideration for these special districts that a few counties benefit from. So again, what this does is it tells us that, things are great. The future is always isn't necessarily clear. I think what I'm hearing is that dialogue is a good thing. And I don't mean to give kind of a civics lesson here, or a political lesson in politics 101, but, crisis generally engenders consensus. And we don't really have a crisis here. I think there's a crisis in Blackhawk County, but there's not a crisis here. So it's going to be an evolutionary process. That's the way it goes.
any other comments or questions? Coming up on lunch, okay.
You're serving lunch.
All right. Thank you for your time, everyone. With that, I will make a motion to recess till 12:15. We have a motion?
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We
Thank
are in
you.
recess. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. It's good to have these discussions.
Roll
I held
hearings.
back on my